Welcome to the Marshall News and View Show. I'm Elaine Conyers, and my guest today is Rob Yant, who is the Director of Public Safety here in Marshall. And I think you've been here maybe close to 19 years. Is that right?
It is. It's approaching
good.
that, so it's amazing how time flies by. But yes, it's pretty close to that
That's
now.
right. So where did you actually come from? Where were you before you came to Marshall?
Well, before I came here, I was with a police department in eastern Iowa called Muscatine, and I was a captain there. So.
And what brought you to Marshall?
The job.
The job,
yes,
okay.
So they had the position as Director of Public Safety, and the job sounded a little more interesting. I'd done police work for a while, and this had police work plus other components to it, and it just sounded interesting. And
and you've done, a lot of work here in Marshall, not just in charge of the police themselves, but you've been giving programs over the years on, it's called Citizens Police Academy, and I know many years ago I attended. It was very, very interesting. Good. Now, you don't do that every year, I don't believe.
No, we try to do it every other year. And then what we do is, and this would be the year that we would have what we call our full police academy, which is 8 sessions that meets, and we're meeting this year, and probably most often on Monday nights. And then on the off year, we have a shorter version on 2 Sunday afternoons where we focus really just on the Marshall Police Department.
Okay.
So that's really geared for those that can't make the time commitment for the longer session. We get a lot of really good feedback from the participants, but from those that go through it or those that aren't able to, the only real issue is that it is a time commitment. But we always get really good feedback from people that go through it, and they find it worthwhile. And I think, especially now, in a time that, police work as an industry is really under the microscope, that I think it's worthwhile for us to open our doors and invite the public to come in and see, especially here in Marshall, how we do things and why we do things, and it's also a chance to see how we work with other departments. So the Citizens Academy, if you look at the program, isn't just about Marshall Police Department. We also work with other area law enforcement, and then also our public safety partners, especially Marshall Fire and North Memorial Ambulance. So we expose people to go through the program to all of those different organizations and how we work together and what we do here in Marshall. So, there's everything from tours of the various facilities to we do a mock accident, we do a mock trial. We also work it out to give people a chance to shoot the guns that we use.
Really?
Use of force is a issue, and so we have everyone that wants to, because some don't, to shoot the handgun that our officers carry, as well as the semi-automatic rifle. So people get a little chance, and now we're adding some components that we've got thanks to the Merit Center upgrade, that we're going to be having a session out there where they can use the force simulator and the driving simulator. So give people a little more of a hands-on, again, to what goes on in terms of force and driving decisions for officers. So we think we've got a lot to offer. We know it takes some time commitment, but it's only $25. You get a t-shirt, and really encourage anyone that can to come. It's oftentimes easier if you've got a good friend or a spouse that wants to do it. If you come together, we start at 6:30 most nights, and are usually about 2.5 hours. And so, it's 6 p.m., not 6:30. So we start at 6, last about 2.5 hours, and encourage people to come to all the sessions. But if you have to miss a couple, we understand, and you can still have been considered to complete it if you miss, a couple. But again, most of the time people say, geez, I regret I had to, but I had a business or family commitment that I had to.
Sure.
But
Now,
And
you talked too about how that you work with these different, related agencies. Do you work with the county sheriff's office too?
yes, the response that we've got is just within the city, but part of what we do is, we obviously are located in the law enforcement center, which, is a county building. So we start out actually with one of the first things is a tour of the facility, and it goes back and shows the communication center and a little bit of access to the jail,
Sure.
so people can see
See
that
what-
and have an
yeah.
understanding of
Yeah.
what goes on in terms of communication. And
Yeah.
then we have usually the sheriff come and give a little bit of description on what the sheriff's department duties are, some of the difference between the sheriff's department and police department, and a little bit on the history.
Okay.
So yeah, we try to promote informing people about all of really public safety
Yeah.
for the Marshall area.
And you do a mock trial. That's at the courthouse, right?
We do. We follow up our mock accident. We have one of our staff that has been we simulate an accident with a drunk driver, and he's been gracious and pretty effective at being our drunk driver. And we then follow up the mock accident with a mock trial, and that's something that again, we're still finalizing the exact sequencing of events, but that has proven very informative. And we also have presentations by our county attorney, Rick Mays, who talks about criminal prosecutions and what some of the process is and considerations that law enforcement has in the filing of charges, or sometimes not filing charges. So and it also touches on laws of arrest and some things that we think it's the public has interest in learning about. So again, it's multifaceted. We try to make it so that package a lot in a short amount of time. There is also a ride along. That's something we don't do a lot, but open it up for people that go through the program to do a ride along with officers and see a little bit of what goes on. And it's sort of a reflection of the evening. Sometimes it's a quiet night and sometimes it isn't. And on the ride-along perspective, people always like a lot of activity, but from a community perspective, we like a quiet night because that means things aren't going badly.
Yeah.
But again, it gives a chance for the people in the program to talk with our staff and see what goes on. A lot of times, just in terms of the activities going on after hours, it's just different than what you see during the day. And
That's right. Oh, sure.
And most people find it informative.
Yes, exactly. And you've really added so many things from it was many years ago that I attended, and it was very interesting, but now you've really added a lot of things, partly because we have the Merit Center and all of those other places that we can, you can have education or education about. So it's something that people should really consider. It's very interesting, very informative. And now, so how would they sign up and when?
Well, I'd encourage them to actually do it as soon as possible. We're starting already Monday, September 19th. So that's going to be here just in a short amount of time. And to do that, they can either stop by the Law Enforcement Center and pick up an application, or on site, on the website rather, they can go to the police department website, and there's a little information and also an application. But we'd like to get that in. We do a criminal history on everyone, so we need some time to process that, and then also to get some supplies that we get. And then we'd be ordering shirts, ideally right after the first session. So really try to get as many people that can make it to come to that, to be registered and make it to that first session on Monday, September 19th, but to have registered really as soon as possible. And like I said, that makes it so we have an idea how many people we have in the program, gives us a chance to do the the background and get everything set up based on the number we have of applicants.
Now, where is that first session going to be held?
First session will be at the Law Enforcement Center
will
in the
be,
basement,
okay.
the training
At the
center.
courthouse.
At the Law Enforcement, it's adjacent to the courthouse. We're next to
sure.
it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
same,
right.
Same campus, but
yeah.
we're closer to the bigger parking, closer to the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
And
there's the entrance there rather than going through the courthouse.
Right.
Well, you could get there, but it's much
not
easier.
after hours, actually.
Oh, I suppose
it's
not.
locked
Yeah.
up, but yeah,
So-
we have people that will let you in, but again, we need you to have applied beforehand and been
Right.
accepted just
Yeah.
to manage the process. But again, I think we think it's important to communicate with the public and try to have full transparency as far as what we do and why we do it, and give people a chance to meet some of the officers and see what we do, and really encourage people from Marshall to do it. It's maybe something you hadn't really thought about, but it's totally different than what you see on television. We don't unfortunately resolve things in 40 minutes. It takes a little longer.
Yeah.
We don't have the huge computer rooms where all sorts of amazing things are done. But on the other hand, I think you'd be impressed with some of the resources that we do have, and sort of present what the reality is for the Marshall area. And we're fortunate to have a good police department, and take a look at our squad cars and see the equipment in there. Things have become much more automated now than they were even a few years ago, and again, just give people a chance to see the process in this setting. So again, would encourage people to come, maybe mention it to your friends and see if they'd go with you, or if they'd be interested in coming, and we'd invite you all to participate in the 2016 Citizens Academy. Again, it will be 2 years until we offer it again with the full academy, so it's sort of now's the time to take advantage of it, and I think you'll find it a worthwhile experience.
How many people are on the police force?
Right now we have 19 full-time officers. We have a part-time officer, and then we have three civilians. So we have a total full-time staff of 22 personnel.
Now, the civilians, are they in the office? Is that, or what?
Most are. We have my administrative assistant, we have a records clerk, and then we have a community service officer, which he's the one that handles bikes, animal calls, things like that.
I see.
Does a lot of the work that the officers do, but that you don't have to be a sworn officer to do.
Okay.
So yeah, the position's a real asset to the department.
Yeah.
And then we've got 2 part-time CSOs for the weekends. And they take care of the animal kennel and car unlocks and things like that, so that the officers aren't tied up doing it.
Yeah. So there's 19 officers
Full-time.
at full-time, and then, well, now, that's night and day, you divide that up, is that, or how does that work?
It's broken out. We have 11 police officers, one of who's in the school. So our 24/7 coverage is broken out among 10 officers.
Okay.
So it's only 10 officers that cover the city 24/7. So that's
Okay.
why, for instance, during mornings, oftentimes we only have 1 officer working, because we do have a supervisor, detectives, and we try to, and then late at night we have 2 officers working.
Okay.
But yeah, there's myself as the director of the police chief. We have 3 patrol sergeants, 2 corporals, 3 detectives, one of whom works for our drug task force as their commander, and then 11 police officers, one of whom is our school resource officer, and during the school year works full-time in the schools.
Okay, and then he moves around to the schools. There isn't one in each?
No, we have one for the whole school district, and it's actually a she.
Oh, okay.
But she works in all the public schools, and then goes some into the private schools, sort of, as if there's some issues.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. How many women are on the force?
We have two.
Two, okay.
We have our school resource officer is a woman, and then we have a young woman who's been with us 2.5 years. And so we look forward to her being with us for quite a while.
Good, good.
And always encourage, I guess we'll digress a little bit and encourage you to, if you're especially a young person or someone, to think about a career in policing. You know, it's something that is both challenging and rewarding, and it's something, it's not for everyone, but you know, the city and the nation needs good police personnel, and would encourage people to think about it.
Yeah,
Again,
that's
these
right.
are sort of challenging times, so a lot of people, I think a few are, you know, reluctant to get into this profession compared to in the past, but on the other hand, you know, I think we're living in a world that if we didn't have good police officers, your only other option really is to deal with people providing their own self-defense for themselves and others.
That's
and
right.
I think, you know, that's not a place we'd want to go. So, you know, the thing is to have the best caliber of person we can going into policing. So make a little side plug. It's not just something you can step into. And again, that's something we talk about through Citizens Academy, is what it takes to become a police officer. And so if you are at least 18 or going to be 18 early on in the semester, we'd encourage you to also consider the Citizens Academy to get a little sense of what policing does. We do have one officer who went through the Citizens Academy many years ago and ended up having a mid-career change, went through the schooling it took to become a police officer, and now has been on our department for 5 or 6 years, and his involvement with us started by going through one of the earlier Citizens Academies.
Wow, wow.
So don't expect that often, but
it can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Now, where is training to become a police officer? Where is that offered?
Well, that's offered in Minnesota. We don't use the traditional police academies.
Oh.
They're done through the technical colleges. So
Oh.
the difference is that the people have to train themselves or have the training done for them and pay for it. So it means at least a 2-year involvement with a technical college. The State Patrol, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, and then Minneapolis and St. Paul are the only departments that have academies, but especially the state agencies, and really even Minneapolis and St. Paul really are able to look at experienced officers for some of their hires. So anyhow, it's something this is things we'll talk about at Citizens Academy, but there is a process. We have an organization called POST, which is Police Officers Standards and Training, and they regulate the preparation and selection process for becoming a police officer. So,
And then there are, well, I don't know, there's some training up in Alexandria. I don't know what that is called. That's a 2-year training.
That is.
Just law enforcement is
it
called,
is.
I think.
That's one of the technical colleges at Alex Tech. Minnesota West has a program
they
for
do,
those in
okay.
the program. There's larger numbers at Alex Tech, and that's something, you know, again, if you had interest, you could talk to our personnel about the possibilities. But yes, there's 10 or 11 certified programs throughout Minnesota.
Okay, well that's great.
But Alex Tech is a very strong program.
And I served as a police commissioner at one time after I took this course anyway.
Yeah.
And I know that we always struggled to find a variety of officers that were, at least if we could have 1 or 2 bilingual, and in those years there wasn't anybody trained in that.
Yep, there still isn't. You know,
Isn't there?
that I think we want our policing to reflect our communities,
Yeah.
and our communities have become increasingly diverse.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, and some of them are cultural, that policing isn't something where they've had a good experience with, and it's something where they just don't view it as a good occupation. And it's, we're hoping I know they've talked about some of the hiring in the Twin Cities where they've really been able to do that they've got more diversity in their new hires. But yeah, we're always looking for good candidates, and good candidates we can get who reflect different backgrounds. It's an asset. Yeah,
I have encouraged 2 young men to take that from my experience on the police commission, and it would have been so helpful to have bilingual people on force. And one has finished, but he went to school down in Iowa, and the other one will be finishing now this next semester. And but whether they choose Minnesota or some other place, we don't ever know just where they're going to go.
Sure.
But anyway,
sure.
I think it's certainly a good program, and something that I would say like to encourage that they would go into the police.
Sure. So anyhow, I appreciate this, and like I said, would encourage everyone to consider the Citizens Police Academy for here in Marshall. We are encouraging to make an application as soon as possible. We'll be starting on Monday, September 19th, so would need it sometime before then. As a cost $25, but again, we've got a shirt that you'd get and some costs. I think you'll from your experience, together with some things we've added more recently, I think you'd find it a worthwhile experience, and I encourage you to consider giving us a little bit of your time, and we'd try and reward you with a more complete understanding of public safety in Marshall.
And we've still got some time left here, and I wondered if we should just go through and talk a little bit about each of the sessions. Now, the first one that will be on September 19th, it's called The Making of a Police Officer, and there you'll have someone from the County Sheriff's Department talking, and then the tour of the law enforcement.
Right. We really start, our first session is introductory, so we get people paperwork. But yes, we start with what it takes to become a police officer, what the process is for the department from when they get a vacancy to get someone filled. We do a tour of the law enforcement center and have someone from the sheriff's department talk about them, and then do a tour of the LEC. So usually just to get everyone grounded in what it is we're doing for the rest of the program. That sort of gives them an orientation.
Sure. Just a little side note here. One time, I do several shows like this, and we did a history of the Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
And so we went up there to the courthouse and had a little history about that and so on. Well, the sheriff insisted, when we went to the law enforcement area, he insisted that I go into a jail and take a picture. So that's one time I've been in jail on that program.
But it's always good when you can leave.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a much better
feeling.
Circumstance, yes.
Then the next one, which is October 3rd, now that sounds interesting too, the search and seizure laws.
Right. Probable
cause laws and sentencing and criminal investigation. Now that sounds like a lot of thought-provoking.
It is. That's the one Rick Mays, our county attorney, really presents the legal involvement for policing, and especially with these emphasis. And then we have one of our detectives that talks about the process for a criminal investigation, because again, a lot of times people see on television that they have a crime, and 40 minutes later they have a major crime where the case is resolved, the person's under arrest, and everything's moved on, and they talk about what it takes for a criminal investigation, in the real world. Yeah.
So that would be very enlightening too. And then on the 17th of October, that's when you have the mock accident, and then the chemical assessment team. So that criminal.
Well, that'll be at the mock. We're out at the Merit Center.
Oh, okay.
So the two things we're doing is that's where we've generally done our mock accident.
Okay.
It's sort of on the edge of town. We have
Yeah.
a little response from the law enforcement center going out there, and then we also, our hazmat, our chemical assessment team is housed out there, so we'll do a quick little interlude with them before everyone heads out. So that's the thing, is to, again, big thing will be the mock accident and
Yeah,
that, and then
yeah.
on our CAT team, because most people don't really understand the hazardous materials or what the response is, and we're fortunate to have one of 11 state teams here in Marshall.
Okay, wow, interesting, yeah.
So.
And so then the next one, we'll go through this quickly here. Again, the next one, October 22nd, will be at the Merit Center.
Right.
And the driving simulator, that's a big screen that you watch TV, and you can manipulate how you're going to, on the TV, right?
Right.
How to do this.
Yep, this is going to be a tour of the Merit Center, and the first one's at it. You'll see these components, but this is actually a tour of the facility for those that haven't seen it.
Okay.
And then we'll use the driving and force simulator. Driving is basically three 55-inch screen TVs that have a console that's built around a Ford that lets driving under a controlled experience to take place. Then the mock act, or the use of force simulator, is basically a very large, high-resolution projector that we do some role playing on.
Okay, yeah.
So.
There's so much educational, it's such an educational facility out there. It's just amazing to see how it can inform people and everything. Well, then we go on to, then the next week, the 31st of October, go to the courthouse, and we've talked about that. And then the fire hall on the 14th of November. And then the 28th is, this sounds interesting.
That's our drug task force.
Task force, yeah.
So talk about drugs and gangs, and also crime and personal safety.
Yeah.
So.
Now, do we actually have gangs in Marshall?
Not much of a presence.
I didn't think there was.
No, we do drugs, unfortunately, but yes, we've been able to keep that in bay, but we do have them in the region, so try to work with that.
Okay, and then of course the last one is December 12th, prior to Christmas.
Prior to Christmas, yes.
And so emergency management, preparedness, and then you'll also have a graduation.
We do have a graduation, so we try to recognize everyone that's made it through the program and the time and effort that they've had to go through it. So it's really the culmination of the event.
Well, this sounds very, very interesting. I'm very tempted to take another one.
Well, you could. It's something that's if you can spare the time. I know with council and that you've got a lot of commitments,
but thank you so much for all the work that you do. Thank you for sharing this today, and we'll have you on, of course, as often as we can. So we appreciate all your work.
Thank you.